These three things are causing you to age more quickly. What are they and what can you do about it? Let's start with number three, and that is sleep, fragmented sleep. Dr. Peter, you have strong feelings about this.
I absolutely do. So sleeping 5 to 6 hours and calling it fine is not so fine at all, actually. And so we know that sleep is such an important part of repairing your body and inflammation. Your body can function for only a short amount of time, but if you're not repairing, it's not going to function for long term. And so what happens when you sleep is that your body repairs inflammation, just like a computer or machines need to reboot, and so does your body. We know that people who get less than 5 to 6 hours of sleep are at increased risk of heart disease, and that's because you have higher inflammatory states. And with less sleep, you have increased levels of circulating cortisol or stress hormone. Your blood pressure can rise as a result. That's why we know that a lot of cardiac events sort of happen in early morning hours, especially between 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., is because people sometimes have poor sleep, higher circulating levels of cortisol, and you are just inherently worsening the repair of your body.
Makes complete sense. And so we see that people tend to develop bad habits around sleep, correct? So you can do a lot of things that will make it hard to sleep. So one thing I hear a lot that people come in and they say is, I take a lot of naps during the day, and then I have a ton of trouble falling asleep, and I don't sleep well at night. And what I really don't like about that is one of the most important things about sleep as well is you have to hit the deep states of sleep. That's where a lot of the repair occurs. And if you're taking these little cat naps, you're usually not hitting those. And if you're having very fragmented, broken sleep at night, you're also very likely not getting into those deep phases of sleep where a lot of the repair occurs. We've talked a lot about the temperature and how important that is, keeping your room cool. And that is something I do all the time and I think is absolutely vital. But there are a lot of things you can do to protect yourself and make sure you're sleeping well.
We're decreasing digital device exposure at night, thermoregulation or the appropriate temperature of the room, which is around 60 to 65 degrees, which is optimal. There's lots of different things that you can really help to really improve that quality of sleep that you talked about. But it is just so important. We know that people at significant risk of heart attack, stroke, vascular disease if you're not repairing.
And getting exercise during the day and tiring yourself out so that you are able to enter sleep more effectively. Because if you don't, we often see people that are complaining, I cannot get to sleep. And they rightly so are worried about it because it can be one of the things that causes you to age more quickly. Number 2 on the list is muscle loss. This is a big one. People stop paying attention to strength training. They don't think it's important, or they just feel they can't make time for it. And as Dr. Peter says, muscles are an organ and they're important, and you have to keep them strong because they communicate with the rest of your body and they do a lot of important stuff for you other than just lifting up various things you want to pick up. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Your muscle mass is a metabolic organ. We know it's one of the key predictors of longevity. And the key thing here is that everyone starts to lose muscle mass. We all lose it. And after the age of 30, you start to lose muscle mass, but it's losing muscle mass and doing nothing about it that really ages you faster. And again, it's not about extreme events. We're not telling you to go and do a lot of weightlifting. It's about consistency, doing core workouts, lower intensity workouts. A high intensity interval workout isn't always necessarily the best in building muscle mass. It's really just the daily consistent habits. And that's what we always strive for, is a consistent wellness that really makes you age slower, essentially.
that's
what we're all
exactly
trying
right.
to do, right? And so the medical term for this is sarcopenia. We like to just throw medical terms for these, but it is such an important thing in reducing aging.
That's exactly right. And it's not just the strength, it's balance. And there's so many doctors out there that talk about preventing fractures by putting you on all these medications that will make the bone stronger or will protect you in other ways. But very few people talk about how important balance is, and strength training and keeping your muscles strong also make sure that you have good balance, that you can protect yourself from a fall. The biggest risk of a fracture is not having thin bones, it's falls. And if you fall in a bad way, you can get these fractures. So strength training and having good balance is and making sure you're not losing too much muscle is incredibly important as you get older.
And so true. We talked about it as a metabolic organ, but I guess, Ben, we could always call it like an anti-aging organ, right?
Yes.
And so people who have like really good muscle mass, and I see this in my older patients when they get into their 80s and some in their early 90s and mid 70s, is the patients that have this really great lean muscle mass do so well. They're just more energetic, usually less insulin resistant. Your muscles metabolize sugars better. And a lot of people are doing things like Pilates, yoga, chair yoga sometimes, pool exercises. Again, a lot of my patients who are older, it's not because they necessarily were marathon runners or heavy weightlifters throughout their life. It was that they were consistent with these daily habits. So consistency is a good part of keeping and improving muscle mass.
But it's not just doing the workouts, it's not just strength, it's taking in enough protein. And people often undertake in protein. And I think that's a really important part of people's diet as time goes on. You know, if you're having high carbohydrates, high sugars, and low protein, you're really doing yourself a disservice in this area as well. All right. Number one is chronic stress. Now, this one's tough because stress comes at us from all different kinds of areas, but it really can do a lot of damage on your body. It can cause you to age very quickly. And it's really underdiagnosed, undertreated, and it's something that we ourselves often just accept as a fact of life, that we have to live in incredibly stressful situations, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Isn't that right?
It's so true. And we always have stress, and it's about managing stress. And it's really not always the big stressful events that we're talking about, but it's really sort of the daily drip when you're always on and you're always having constant levels of chronic stress. And what that happens and leads to is increased sympathetic toning your body or your stress response, which increases cortisol levels. We know that increased cortisol levels increases inflammation. Inflammation increases obstruction or dysfunction of the lining of your blood vessels. They can't contract and expand as well. So you have rises in blood pressure, you have blood sugar elevation, insulin resistance, causes increase in visceral fat or fat laying down in organs like your liver, which we have been shown to increase your risk of heart disease by 3 to 5-fold with things like metabolic syndrome. It's just the overly stimulated, always on, never able to manage the stress affects you and tears through your body.
Absolutely. So there are things you can do to manage your stress. You can be cautious with your diet and try to avoid high stress, high inflammatory foods. You can exercise more, and you can avoid those things that you know are going to cause intense stress for you. If you're watching 5 to 8 hours of the news, which is geared toward causing stress because it gets you to come back and watch more, maybe rethink that. There may be better ways you can get your information than going to a very stressful source. There may be other things you notice in your life that are directly causing stress that you do not have to be a part of or you do not have to interact with, that you could start getting away from. So it's not only avoiding potentially stressful situations, but it's learning how to deal with them, because stress is going to come at you no matter if you want it to or not. It's working on ways to minimize it to the best of your ability. And people that can do that usually do a lot better.
Absolutely. Stress, we know reducing it or managing it better will lead to better sleep. I think if you exercise more, I mean, that's a key component in my life. I know that even at work, I have a walking pad that I walk on all day. And that I can feel the stress, that chronic stress, just like burning off altogether. And it just leads to this positive snowball effect of where you have less stress, you sleep better, you eat better. And if you're working out more, you have more muscle mass. And so remember, these are just consistent habits that you need to do. I mean, aging isn't just about years, it's about daily habits.
I couldn't agree more. It certainly is. And the beautiful thing is you have the power to change it. You can take your health into your own hands. Please comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know stories you have or comments you have about what we've just discussed. Come and visit us at our store at ohiwellness.com if you're in the USA, or ohiwellness.co if you're in the UK. And please come and see us again very soon.